For 3 months, I have hardly left this hammock. I know I'm beginning to look strained and nervous. But I'm certain that behind the confining screen of jungle, somewhere in the maze of vegetation, there is a pair of watching eyes. The eyes of the most primitive of men. They may stay for years, the watchers unseen, myself unspeaking. But eventually something must drag the watcher from the trees, turning the key to his primitive mind. What that something is, how I come to be in this lonely camp, is the result of a long, complex chain or process.
The process started with the capture of a child. The child belonged to the Krianakrori tribe, which no white man and no Indian has ever spoken to. The next stage required the help of Indians who were once as unknown as the unknown Krianakrori. The operation was controlled by Brazil's leading explorer in charge of Indians. And everything developed in the jungle through his shy and short-sighted brother, who looks like a schoolmaster and lives like a hermit.
The end is here, in the jungle. But the chain begins in the cities, like Sao Paulo, where the new forest of concrete means the death of my forest. It's the law of evolution. The new race always destroys the old. The world is exploding with people. They need food, space. Riding in metal, moving on concrete, they will devour the jungle within 30 years. It's their needs that destroy the jungle. Take any man. It's his economic necessity that ultimately launches my expedition. First, his need for food draws the immigrant from Europe, then sends him to the interior for land.
Brasilia, built to develop the interior, was wasteland when Claudio first went to the jungle. And the frontier town ahead was once just Claudio's base camp. A road has opened up the unknown land Claudio was the first to cross, but into the unexplored jungle ahead, prospectors are already smashing their way in.
Someone found a diamond, and immediately 2,000 prospectors arrived. This is the pace of the onslaught. These are the bearers of civilization to the unknown Indian, like our Krianakrori. They're not anthropologists, they're not trained or educated. These men are the ambassadors of our race. This is the face we show the Indian.
The face of the Indian is more gentle, even when she's become the miner's prostitute. They're permissive and innocent. Their tribe was as wild as the unknown Crianacrori until Orlando and Claudio won their friendship 3 years ago. Now they've been bought for old clothes, and their husbands who did the selling try to tell Claudio how it happened.
We thought we could give them a few more years of peace alone in the jungle. But the prospectors got here first. And this is the pattern of the future. They will lust for the products of civilization and hate them at the same time. As I watch him, I watch my own responsibility. I lured them from isolation because our help is their only chance. But that chance leads through this and all the conflicts of civilization. I only have to stand back to see in his face all the others that have died. Indians have no resistance to our diseases. And though we succeeded in wiping out TB in this tribe, how can we speak of success when it demands this price? Only a few die, but death wounds the minds of the survivors, and their despair passes from generation to generation. Their legends rise from this land. Their spirits live under this river. So to move them away from the prospectors is to risk their beliefs and the society built upon those beliefs.
To leave them means bullets, syphilis, and extinction within 5 years. So Claudio is moving the tribe down the chain deeper into the jungle to his Indian reserve. There they will merge gradually into our modern life through a period of inevitable shock and unhappiness. Alternatives do not exist. Within 30 years, factories will stand on this river.
I've launched a dozen tribes on this journey. Soon the unknown Crianacrori will have to follow. But it can never banish the memory of 25 years ago, when Orlando and I first came to the jungle, and the Indian appeared to us like a spirit from the forest. In the Indian, it was the forest that danced, and the wilderness that seemed free. As if they were the owners of paradise, they welcomed us to man's oasis in the jungle. Music rises from the secret places of a people's soul. The dances were the cathedral and throne room of Indian life. The dances joined each man in harmony with his universe. They expressed his joy in the forests and rivers. They were his links with the spirits and the dead. Indian life, we realized, was not barbaric, but in its setting very civilized. A cultured harmony between man and his environment. The dancing stopped when flu, brought by our expedition, swept through the villages. We radioed for medicine to the government department that had sent us. "How can we look after Indians?" was their reply, "when there's not enough medicine for the slums of Rio?" And thus we learnt, as young men, that though some Indians may be murdered, most die from neglect. So we bought medicine from our salaries and organized our men into medical teams. But at the end there were 9 graves, including the chief. And Indians also believe that most disease comes from magic. The witch doctor was accused of causing the epidemic, and completely passive in his fatalism, he lay for several days in his hammock. He just waited until they came for him in a night of full moon. They clubbed him to death in the village square, close to the eagle's cage. Then they burnt the chief's house, and those most bitter flames of our life taught us how dangerous were the effects of civilization, and that if we were civilized, our duty was to stay and help.
20 years later, that help has rescued the tribe from the prospectors. They arrive deep in the jungle at the Xingu Reserve. It's the brothers' policy that isolated tribes are taught to live with other Indians before they live with civilization. One day, the unknown Krianakrori tribe will arrive like this. In 1961, the tribes in the reserve massacred half the arriving tribe. Some years before, the arriving tribe had stolen a girl from the reserve Indians who now want her back. She's crying, but she's assured by the brothers that she won't be forced to leave the husband who captured her. It's the first of an endless series of problems, and the new tribe are right to feel apprehensive. Almost anywhere else, their chances would be extinction rather than survival. In the whole of Brazil, the Xingu Reserve is the only place where a large group of tribes is not dying, but is actually on the increase. Teams of doctors move from village to village. There's a plane for emergencies, also a hospital. Indians run the reserve and its machines, but nothing is forced on them. They're only taught what they want and when they ask for it.
Fábio brincava na calçada e logo se...
They ask for our tools and techniques, but the old culture remains the unchallenged core of their society. What the brothers offer is a period of adjustment before the full shock of the modern world. And so, invading prospectors are thrown out.
Mas eles estão ainda em estado de briga. E a sorte dos senhores também foi entrar à direita aqui no Rio Culuene, porque se o senhor continua em linha reta, ia cair na mão dos Juruna, que também não iam perdoar. Se escapar...
But for the Indian, there is no punishment, no police, and no law beyond persuasion.
Esse colar é muito feio, entendeu? Olha a cara do colar.
Que vai lá buscar doença para vir morrer criança aqui.
Isso.
Vai lá buscar doença e depois começa a morrer criança, que agora não tem criança a morrer.
He's heard unknown Indians in the jungle. They're offering to capture them, but Claudio says he must do it. It's the start and foundation of his whole policy.
Correlação cachimbo! Correlação cachimbo! Estamos na escuta!
The news is that unknown Indians have attacked the jungle base of Kashimbu, and the Air Force is flying in reinforcements. The crisis began when an approaching plane wirelessed that the Kashimbu runway was blocked. The base's operator rushed out, saw an Indian, and fired a shot. In the scrub, 60 of the unknown Krianakrori tribe dropped their bows and fled. Later, a plane rushing in reinforcements crashed, killing 20 men. More lives to add to the English explorer whose body some years before was recovered from a Krianakrori ambush. Unknown but always in the headlines, the government decides that peace must be made with the Krianakrori.
To find the only tribe that knows the Krianakrori, I travel deeper into the jungle, across the reserve. Cage a bird and it will die. Cage an Indian and he loses the will for life. That's why we fought for the reserve. The Indian is born to hunt these animals, to move as freely as they do. This is the rhythm of his existence, and it must be preserved till he adapts to the faster rhythm of our modern life. Indians love a party, an arrival, any sort of excitement. These are the age-old enemies of the Krianakrori. They're also the only people on Earth who know anything about them. The Zuka Hamai tribe were the greatest fighters of this century. They killed scores of white men, and we took years to contact them. But though they're enemies of the Krianakrori, we think they're similar in culture, and so can teach us something about them. Inside the group, they're loving, generous, and affectionate. But outside is the jungle, and there everything hunts and is hunted. To live, the Indian must kill, and he kills daily without compassion. He watches death with flat, unresponsive eyes. And until you understand the killing, you cannot understand the Indian. Killing is the economy of the jungle. It's the rule of existence, an instinctive, automatic reflex. This is the barrier we must cross, the constant, unthought rain of clubs. The brutal hunter is a gentle father, and all his social loyalties and duties are an extension of family love. They are as loving as we are, and probably more gentle. There is no difference between us, except that their love extends no further than the tribe. The ancestors of these Indians extended family love to include all the relatives that form a tribe. In our case, the Romans extended citizenship from a city to a whole empire, and Christ developed this into the brotherhood of men. So how can these Indians understand that all men have rights when they've never lived in an empire, never known anyone outside these confined limits? Beyond is the jungle, where only the killer has the right not to be killed. The war dance incites hate against the Cree Cree. Brutal and murderous, but there's something universal in human nature which responds to the strange idea that it's wrong to kill. They still kill, but they understand why I don't, and so they will help me now.
No. Amu igaben. No, tema ni beka. Amu kaben.
I don't know much of their language, but I gather that a distant section of their tribe has just killed some Kreenakrori. This is our first clue. The Kreenakrori village is in the heart of the jungle, over to the west. We are flying across the largest unknown jungle of Brazil, the home of the Kreenakrori. We hope to give them a few more years of peace, but a road will be through soon, and already there's an airstrip by the section of the Zucahamai tribe, which recently attacked the Kreenakrori.
They're tense and nervous, worried that Claudio's been told about their attack on the Kreenakrori. So first, Claudio talks to an old friend, a white man who was captured as a boy and brought up as an Indian. In the jungle wars, he led raids on the whites, and he went on the last raid against the Kreenakrori. Indians are always confused in their stories of war, so Claudio often asks them to reenact their battles and attacks. He says that a Kreenakrori village is like one of his tribe's jungle camps, and that if the rest can be persuaded, the attack should be acted there. It was guns against bows, a massacre with 20 killed and 4 children captured.
These captured items are a symbol for me of the jungle war. The necklace contains beads I gave a Zucahamai. A Kreenakrori killed him and put the beads in his necklace. Now he's been killed, a Zucahamai will wear it. I listen to accounts of meaningless slaughter. But if I cease listening, I realize that this is a world unaware that murder and cruelty can be wrong. Watch their treatment of the captured children. White men can be just as cruel, but they would never let me see. The child must go back. The fighting must stop. But the first problem is to find the village.
Even with directions from the Zucahamai, the search goes on for days. The village of the massacre will be abandoned, but they hope it will lead to other villages nearby.
Casa velha.
movimentação ali em forma de cruz, né? As casas devem estar um pouco mais para cima. Deve estar mais para cima. As casas aí, igual. Olha que coisa bonita, rapaz. Que maravilha isso.
For me, this is the true gold of the jungle, a fragment of mankind, buried since the beginning of time. What right have we to trouble these tiny dots below? They don't want us. But the world has found them, and we already know the price of that discovery.
From that fate, these unknown dots must be saved. Their village is only a small one, but Claudio hopes to use it to approach the other villages, which he believes are somewhere in the surrounding jungle. First, he'll get Indians from the Xingu Reserve, then travel up the Manitsar River, cut a trail to the next river, and build an airstrip and canoes. Finally, he will enter the village. They come from a dozen tribes. Once they too were unknown Indians watching Claudio from the trees. Now they wear clothes to distinguish them from a war party and will help find the Kriana quarry.